Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. With this video, I'll be reviewing the Epic Level Supplement Legendary Adventures Epic Play for 5th Edition, designed by Mike Myler for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. This review has been sponsored by the publisher, and a review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you're interested in a sponsored review, please reach out via email, Twitter, or on our Discord server, or on my submission form at roguewatson.com. If you enjoy my videos, consider using my affiliate links for your online shopping and supporting me via patreon.com/roguewatson. What is Epic Play? My only experience with it is in, I believe it was the second expansion to Neverwinter Nights, Hordes of the Underdark, which included the ability to level past 20, from level 20 up to level 40. And you would fight like entire dungeons full of beholders. You would go through like all of the Underdark. You went to several layers of the Abyss at one point, I believe, and all the way up to where you're beating just epic mega demons and gods by the end. So there is some precedent for that, but as far as I'm aware, 5th edition does not officially support epic level play beyond level 20. And I would hazard a guess as to say most D&D campaigns don't even reach anywhere close to 20. If you do, then that's awesome. But I think, just look at the official D&D 5e adventures. Most of them end at like level, 11 or 12. But if you do make it that far, or maybe you just want to start as world famous badasses to begin with, Epic Play takes you above level 20. So this is unofficial, obviously third party edition that extends the career of your players beyond what tier 4 you're already saving the world. So where do you go from there? Well, you could just kind of keep saving the world from additional threats, basically. If you think, I always think about, especially in our campaigns where D&D 5e is almost like superheroes with how powerful, heroes get and how they're just beating up everybody. That's the kind of tone that I go for. And if epic level play could be like Infinity War with Thanos coming down with all the Black Order and all these minions coming in, and that's probably pretty epic level play right there. This particular supplement is basically a 2-in-1 supplement. It provides a bestiary and obviously the features and traits to level up each character class, sans the artificer, so the original 11 classes in 5e, from levels 21 up to 30. Now, it doesn't include any adventures, which is a bit of a bummer, or any kind of story hook, so it's mainly a bestiary. That's about 2/3 of the supplement, and then the other third is mainly those epic levels, as well as we get some feats and a little bit of notes on how to run an epic level campaign, which I was hoping this part would be a little bit longer because I'd be fascinated to see what kind of advice do you give, because it's already so difficult to run D&D to high level. We're actually playing, those of you watching our live stream campaigns, we're playing through a high level campaign right now. We just hit level 19, and it's already just bananas in terms of the prowess that players have and the onus on the DM to try to create meaningful encounters for players of that level. So when you start going even above and beyond that, balance goes out the window. Like, everything is just kind of crazy. And how do you even run a game like that? I have no idea. There are some good little tips and advice through this epic game mastery section, but I kind of wish there was a full-on like little chapter section about how to even do this, basically, because I'm fascinated. We do get nice artwork throughout for every single epic class as well as every creature, which is a huge addition. I like to see art just about on every page. In terms of the classes, there is a lot of copy and pasting of different features and traits that I was less of a fan of. But, going back into the leveling from just 1 to 20 on any class, it's not like you get something super cool every single level. So I had to remind myself of that. Even though I'm thinking, okay, epic level, every level should be really awesome, you don't necessarily have to do it like that. And to me, what saved this epic level progression is that almost all the classes get some cool ability from like 1 to 3, really neat kind of class-defining epic ability that you can unleash at a certain level. So in terms of the more boring ones that are on copy and pasted, you get prestige at different levels, including regular prestige, legendary, and then epic prestige, which basically just means you're just a world famous badass that everybody recognizes you. You even show up in like different planes of existence, and you're just kind of immune to those effects because even like the plane itself is aware of your badassness. And then at some point at 30th level, I think it's really funny the way this is worded. When you request the presence of a god or have a meeting with one, your request is honored within 1 week. Please stay on the line. Your call is very important to us. We know you're an important somebody. It's like, yeah, at that level, of course. You should be able to be on a first name basis with pretty much gods and demons and everything else. So this is funny the way it's worded. But in terms of the features, you know, some of them are a little more boring, like Epic Fighter can attack 5 times at some level, and the Monk, which is called an Adept here, can attack 3 times at 25th level. You know, occasionally it just becomes better. Like you get more key points, you get more spell slots, your proficiency bonus goes up. All that is fairly obvious. Your cantrip, you know, damage scale. So that information is here. What I was looking for was completely new abilities that really help define the class at that level. Epic Performance is a good example for bards at 29th level. As an action, you can do a giant AoE charm, and it could even have the effect if you do it outside of combat, if you do it for a minute, with the 9th level Mass Suggestion. And that is, okay, now you are the best of the bards, and you can just charm everyone around you and basically command them to do whatever you want. That seems very befitting of what a high-level bard can do. Druid is another one of my favorites, and I like that this one is front-loaded at level 21. You can use some of your wild shape. It actually is worded that you can expend 4 hours of wild shape to meld into the terrain and then just become like the land. And you can create pits that can swallow people up, and you literally gain like layer actions because you are a layer ostensibly. That's a really neat idea. There's also just a neat combo feature with Wild Shape where you can, at 25th level, if you cast a spell while wild shaping, you can either deal more damage or heal more hit points, and all your spells are like 2 levels higher. So just kind of a neat combo. I mean, that could almost be its own character subclass, is comboing like Wild Shape with spellcasting. In terms of balance, it's really hard for me to comment because we're fucking like 25th and 29th level. Like, how the hell do you balance anything? So that's not something I'm really commenting on because I don't know the first way to even look at balancing for this level. And frankly, I don't know if you can, if that's even a thing you can do as a DM. So it seems crazy that, for example, at 29th level, a druid can, as a bonus action, do all these different elemental effects like air shotgun blast to blow people away, or just volcanic geysers to raise up, just as a bonus action. No spell, no nothing, it just does it as a bonus action. That seems absolutely crazy to me, but you know, we're 29th level, everything is kind of crazy. You're just a walking god at that point, so I guess that's fine, maybe. Not all of them are pure winners. The Epic Ranger kind of assumes you want to be the Beastmaster Ranger, and has all of its things to do with the pet class, which Ranger's kind of tricky that way because I think it's still a bit more one of the more problematic classes in terms of its abilities, but it doesn't really go beyond like, hey, do you want to have an even more powerful pet or have like a pet ooze or a pet dragon? Like, well, not every Ranger has pets, maybe not. Rogue is straight up hilarious to me because rogues are always trying to get away with the most shit, and so the epic level rogue can attune to 4 items, gain extra attack, gain a second reaction, and then at 29th level, they can, which I don't know why it says you can choose to assassinate, because there's no limit to, you might as well assassinate every time. You can deal max damage on your sneak attack, which we know how much rogues can do sneak attack at this point. You're looking at 11, 12, 13 d6 for a sneak attack. So you're dealing max damage, you're not rolling dice, and then you can force them to make a con saving throw or just instantly die. Alright, fuck you, rogue. You can just do whatever. You press the I win button and just kill everything if you can do sneak attack. But again, who's to say what the hell's balanced at this point? Like, you probably should be able to just kill things left and right, anything that's not just a giant boss monster. And that's probably the only thing that you're going to fight at this level, the giant bosses, which thankfully we do have some giant bosses here. So with the legendary Bestiary, I don't want to skip the feats. So every other level, you can either choose to gain a ASI and a feat, an ability score improvement, or an epic level feat. And an epic feat is from this page right here, which there's, I believe, 15 of them. You can get legendary resistance. You can gain, super proficiency in something. You can just get a +1 bonus to AC and saving throws. A lot of them aren't the sexiest thing. I love Monster Conjurer because it literally turns you into a Pokemon trainer. You can throw a ball of magic to summon a monster from a D8, and they include like Manticores, Ankylosaurus, Basilisk, Owlbear, Yeti. granted, if you're 20, level 22, those monsters aren't that powerful, but still, just being able to summon one, as an action, a pretty decent, what are those, CR5 monsters are pretty powerful, so fun little feats, nothing that's terribly, incredibly game-breaking as opposed to the actual built-in powers, which is funny, but that is an option there, which I like. So the Bestiary, we actually start off with Epic Hazards, which probably should have been its own section, because that's technically not beasts, but a lot of these are, volcanic bursts and ways to infect people with different horrendous diseases that would be debilitating to high-level players, which would be like things that erase your entire background and replace you with something else, which all of that would be really shitty to have happen if you've been playing a character for that long. But again, how do you create, diseases and threats that are actually going to be meaningful to high-level players at that point? The Bestiary includes 50 monsters from CR 20 up to CR 35. Sorry, Tarask. Literally, Satan is here. And Satan is a CR 35. But Tarask, you are no longer the king of the world. The world is ending this threat that we have. We've got all kinds of... So if you want monsters that are at that level, because the original monster manual does have monsters that go above CR 20, which tells me that these are epic level threats that are designed for, honestly, tier 3 parties could probably face a lot of them. I mean, Acerax at the end of Tomb of Annihilation, he's CR 23, I believe. And technically, you could even unleash a Tarask in Rime of the Frost Maiden. So it gets a little bit questionable on what the player to monster ratio is, and especially if we're making it to level 30, then honestly CR 35 might not even be high enough, because we've got a CR 30 for the monster manual, and that the highest level for that one was CR 20. But again, the CR thing is all weird, and it's hard for me to make a comment on that. In terms of the monsters that we get, there is a really cool variety here that I appreciate. We get high-level NPC, like humanoid NPCs, like this Archdruid. There's like different necromancers, Necrolord, and I think a Horrormancer was one of them. There was a Time Maestro, who's just a time traveler, who's got different technology powers. So you've got your high-level NPCs, which are just kind of humanoids. You've got different elementals, including these avatars of different aspects of nature or like demonic hatred. There's also really cool gargantuan elementals that combine, I'm scrolling down to get to them, that combine different planes. So for example, the Firestorm is plane of fire and air. The Steam Rage is the plane of fire and water, because we already have those bosses at the end of Prince of the Apocalypse. So I was looking at, okay, how do we make these really cool giant boss monster elementals? And I think designer does a good job of like, well, what if we just combine two different elements and created a neat monster based on that? As you can see, really cool artwork for all of these monsters as well. Dragons, of course, we're gonna have your standard dragons, which fine. We've already got ancient dragons. I wasn't super looking like we needed dragons. A Soul Hoarder is designed to fuck up all the high level players that can just cast Resurrection left and right, because it literally just can suck in your souls and then consume the souls in action, in which case you are gonzo. So again, sorry, you lost your high-level character like that. Blasphemous Goal, one of my favorite ones, because you are basically Ultron/Iron Man as a villain, which is a really neat idea. In fact, there's a lot of monsters in here that use technology or time travel. There's a cyborg assassin from the future that can hunt you down. Talk about a high-powered NPC who's got all these, like, grenades, and essentially it's spells, but it says you can't use... in fact, it says here also, you can't use Counterspell, Dispel Magic, or Anti-Magic Field, because they're using technology, but mechanically it's the same as a spell. So, for example, it shoots like a fire grenade. It's the Fireball spell, but the players can't Counterspell. That's a really clever idea to get around the fact that players are going to have all of those shutdown spells available to them. Now, you might be wondering, oh, I don't know if I want to introduce technology to my games. And my response is, too bad, we're at epic levels, baby. Like, you gotta do something. And I think that the technology stuff in the Legendary Bestiary here is my favorite stuff by far. The Blasphemous Golem being one of them. There's a Robo Dragon, you've probably seen me scroll past, which has lightning energy wings, stealth mode scales, and like laser beams it can shoot out. Like, fuck yeah, let's just do that. We're at level like 25. Why the hell are we not, shoving in? You're hitting other planes of existence. Merlin from the Arthurian legends exists, and one of his abilities, I'm just gonna skip past here for a little bit. There's the cyborg assassin, by the way. Very, very awesome with all his like grenades and things he can do. Merlin exists. This guy, and one of his abilities, I kid you not, is gun turrets. By spending an action, Merlin conjures 1d4+1 gun turrets that appear and fire, firing again each turn until he commands them to stop. Merlin, of course, is a 26th level spellcaster who has time, stop, wish, and all these things. But I love the fact that he would choose, as an action, to just summon gun turrets. I don't know where he learned to do that, but he's a time-traveling super wizard, so why not? And a lot of the monsters are drawn from, there's obviously some cool original stuff, but there's also stuff that you will recognize. So Morgan Le Fay, Merlin here. There's stuff from Norse mythology. Odin is included here. I believe Odin's one of the highest ones at CR 30 or 35. The Jormungundir, the world serpent, the devouring world serpent, Fenrir. So Norse mythology is represented. Irish mythology with Morrigan. Dagon, who I believe is like a Cthulhu type monster. There's the world serpent there. A lot of inspiration from, things you'll recognize. Baba Yaga, who's, of course, a famous, powerful witch. The four harbingers of the apocalypse, kind of to replace the horsemen, all have very thematically cool abilities you can use. There's just a huge, cool variety. That being said, if you've noticed as I've been flipping through here, the stat blocks and the actual organization and layout is really, really unattractive. This may be one of the worst looking monster bestiaries that I have ever seen. It's very odd. Like, first of all, these are very big monsters. Like, they all require almost an entire page onto themselves just for the stat blocks and the things they can do. And so that's already going to be difficult to parse. But then you've got no color, you've got no subheadings, no lines to break up the action. You've got, I think these are bolded, but it's very hard to tell just because the way maybe it's the background with the bolding, and there's no like use of colored text or color headings. It's just, it looks bad to just look at this and try to figure out where the actions are, what the traits are, look at the spells. And for an example, so this might actually be the best one since the thing's on the left and I've got it set up. I've got an example that I can show you based on what I'm talking about. So this is an image I pulled out from the Tomb of Beasts, which is from Kobold Press, one of the more famous third-party bestiaries. And this is an example of one that does not at all use the official 5e stat block that we kind of recognize as being that little box text with all the different headings and things. This doesn't do that, but it does use, you can see those lines that separate the actions and the stats. It uses the colored, in this case, like red bolded words on all the, strength decks, and then the challenge, the saving throws, all that information. It's broken up in terms of there's like more spacing there. It probably helps that it's on a white background, but you could still work with different, colors and fonts to make this pop a little bit better. It just doesn't look good to read, and unfortunately that's the main part of this supplement is 50 different monsters to try to look at, and it's just unnecessarily challenging to try to read and figure out what all the different stats are, and it's exacerbated by the fact that these are such big, long, involved stat blocks. We're not even looking at one that has legendary actions. I'm trying to find one that's on the left side of the screen, but I think most of them, like there's Morgan Le Fay's stat block right there. There's also a little bit of weirdness where I don't like the fact that the designer kind of played fast and loose with where the stat block is in relation to the description of the monster. I feel like the description should always come before the monster. And there are times where the columns are kind of broken up to where there's a picture, and then the description is on this side, and then the stat block will start down here. But obviously if it's columned, you're always going to read top to bottom, and it doesn't work if you've got the description up here. I can't find an example of that right here, but it's just kind of annoying. This is one that's done well with the description up there. So there's a little bit of formatting and layout issues that I guess here's an example. There's Satan. That I think is just a little bit unnecessary. Let's get rid of this image so you can see Satan in all his glorious CR 35 glory. It just makes it needlessly challenging to try to read and figure everything out. I mean, at the very least, like actions and legendary actions that needed to be separated a little bit more between the traits and everything. This is just, you're just reading paragraphs of information at first glance. You really have to like dig in and stare at it and be like, okay, where is everything? And to me, that seems like not a very difficult fix, but that's something that you're going to have to do for 50, freaking monsters. So it's a format that you needed to nail down the first time and then go through and make sure to apply that. So that is a bummer because most of this book is this bestiary, and I wish it looked better. Now, I still really love the art. There is artwork for every single monster, which is awesome, and the art that is used is placed in cool, dynamic ways. We've got, giant half or full page art in this case. You've got it, to where it looks like it's kind of part of the page. So the art layout looks really, really good, and I like that we get, from what I can tell, original artwork, I think. Maybe it's licensed some, I don't know what the exact origins of it are, but it's new to me. It doesn't look like stock art to me, and these are all, fairly new creations or drawn from, classic sources like Arthurian legends and Norse mythology. But I like the way the art is used. I just wish the actual text and particularly the stat blocks kind of reflected that layout a little bit better. This is the Time Maester, who's just a time-traveling asshole. Monocle and top hat and everything, and has insane spells. Of course, time stop just based around that. But again, it's a technology hero. It just uses, it gets around all that counterspell and dispel magic by just throwing grenades and having technology that uses spells. I am really a big fan of this, and these are my favorite monsters. Just because to me that's a lot more interesting and exciting than just using a high-powered dragon or a high-powered elemental, just because we've seen that kind of stuff before, and that just seems not as interesting, especially for epic level fights. I want to throw down with gods, I want to throw down with elder threats, and have a cyborg assassin show up to hunt my players down, because I think that just adds to the uniqueness of what this bestiary can offer World Turtle. Is that a reference to Discworld? I don't know. It's also funny that monsters, I believe, cannot go above gargantuan, even though some of these absolutely should be more gargantuan in nature, but I don't think 5e lets you have a monster that's actually like a world. Like, it's kind of weird how you do, like, even the world serpent Jormungundir, which kind of the designer does that by having it have like a 120-foot range, and then says that it actually takes a full like turn for when it starts its tail attack to when it ends the tail attack. And this one actually says that too. Ponderous. World Turtle takes no reaction, slow to physically act. World Turtle makes a melee weapon attack and does not strike until the end of its next turn. So that's kind of the way, because it's such a big creature, that it literally takes a full turn to actually get those attacks off. So, yeah, overall, I mean, I like the monsters. I like the content. I think there's a lot of good ideas here. There's a lot of nice variety between, having those traditional threats and also having some new unique options. But I just wish the stat blocks themselves looked a little bit better. There's also, it was just on the line of, there were a few issues of sentence structure and grammar that caused me to pause and raise an eyebrow as I reread certain sections. It was not enough to ding the supplement in terms of like, oh, that's a huge negative. It's not poorly written, but I do feel like especially certain sections very much needed an editor to clean up. Like, it was just had some awkward sentence structure. I didn't really find any like typos or anything weird like that, but just a little bit here and there. But the book is long enough and those sections weren't that big that ultimately it wasn't like a huge show-stopping thing. But there were times where I thought it was a little bit awkwardly written and probably could have used an editor to go through and clean up some various spots. Let's go over my pros and cons for Legendary Adventures. Pros, obviously, 50 CR 20 plus monsters, including powerful dragons, colossal elementals, renegade constructs, and cyborg assassins from the future. I'm trying to skip down to the enemy section. I like the variety here. I think the actual monsters that are included are awesome. There's just a lot of really neat ideas from, again, if you like those traditional dragons or elementals, then you can do that. Or if there's some elder gods, there's some hell demons, there's literally Satan. And then you've got some neat ideas like all the future technology monsters, which are my personal favorite. Pro, each class features and traits for levels 21 to 30. So this is really a 2-in-1 supplement. You've got your monsters and you've got your heroes for the player side that they can level up appropriately. And for the most part, I thought there were some really good ideas in here. Not every level gives you something cool. Not every feat is very interesting, but for the most part, most classes have at least 1 to 3 really cool signature abilities that I thought was a neat idea for that character. In, like the wizard, you can rework your magic AoE spells to whatever you want, which I think is befitting of like, okay, you're just a powerful wizard, you know that much about magic, then sure, just break that rule and you can make whatever, transform different radiuses in a different area of effect. So those are neat abilities. Things like the barbarian, where it's like, oh, you can attack a third or fourth time, whatever's cool for the barbarian. Probably not quite as interesting, but for the most part, I think they did a pretty good job with the class designs. Pro, over a dozen epic feats. Not every epic feat is awesome, but I like that we got them. And pro, original artwork for each monster and epic class. I'm not entirely sure the original artwork, but I like the art that was used here, and it was laid out very nicely. Cons, on the flip side of that, is the unattractive tables and stat blocks, or kind of lack thereof. I mean, it's just, there's not much going on here in terms of organizing what the actual monster stat blocks look like. I thought it was very poorly done. And the other con I put is that it's called Legendary Adventures, doesn't include any adventures. Obviously, your adventure can be hunting this big monster, but if that's the case, give me some adventure hooks or something, or even not necessarily for every monster, but just give me some like story seed ideas. I'm not expecting to write me a whole, epic level campaign, and I don't think that was the design of this product, but it would be nice if it included some kind of story seed idea for each monster, or maybe an example, 2 or 3 pages that was like, hey, here's, Baba Yaga's showing up with the 4 harbingers of the apocalypse, and this is how we, incorporate some of the monsters here in the thing. And it's just, a single page kind of a story prompt idea for an epic level campaign. That would have gone a long way towards being a proper adventure. And I don't expect there to be a full campaign here or anything. That's not what this sets out to do, but you did call it Legendary Adventures, and I'm not seeing any adventures, so I thought that was kind of a bummer. Final verdict, Legendary Adventures is a comprehensive epic level supplement with powerful feats and character traits alongside an impressive variety of world-shattering threats. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can support my work at patreon.com/roguewatson. You can follow our D&D adventures here on my YouTube channel. Thank you.